So the LXX has something like this. His name, that is the Davidic king's name, or what became read as Messiah, the Messiah, future Messiah. His name endures before the creation of the sun. Now we have another text, the famous Micah 5:2 text. So this is another text that's used a lot to apply to Jesus prior to his birth, or prior to his becoming flesh, taking on the person of Jesus, I guess, the man Jesus, a new mode of existence, I guess. But all these texts, by the way, to this day are understood by Jews to be speaking of David, as far as I know. But obviously, early Jewish Christian believers, so Jews who believe Jesus to be the promised Messiah, obviously applied them to Jesus of Nazareth. So let's see, the NET Bible, which is a free source online, you can look up, and it's very good. It's among its contributors are Daniel Wallace, who is the premier textual critic. In other words, the worker of text of Bible, Old and New Testament. So it has this good comment on Micah 5. The passage anticipates the second coming of the great king to usher in a new era of national glory for Israel. Other prophets are more direct and name this coming ideal ruler David, quote unquote. So it's a David-like person, not David himself, because he's dead, but it's David-like. Of course, says the NET, this prophecy of David's second coming, it's an interesting phrase, David's second coming, is actually fulfilled through his descendant, the Messiah, who will rule in the spirit and power of his famous ancestor and bring to realization the Davidic royal ideal in an even greater way than the historical David did. So that's how they applied this text and texts like it. Now, as to the phrase there that his origin is from antiquity, from eternity, I would say that has to do with this figure being in the purposes of God, in the mind of God, from even before the creation of everything, of the world. And that's why texts like Psalm 71:17 are good proof text for this view, that it wasn't the person as such, but his name that is, in a way, always in God's mind, in God's purposes. Now, you also have extra biblical works, other Jewish works, ancient works, usually pre-Christian or before the 1st century AD. So you have passages like this one from, so this is that of Jonathan, it's called the Commentary Targum of Jonathan on Zechariah 4:7. You also have the famous book of Enoch, chapter 48. Enoch is very instructive on this topic, because Enoch, there's a lot of Son of Man, Daniel stuff, I guess, that it shares, obviously, with the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation as well. A lot of images and metaphors and figures and so on. So it's a very interesting book to have a read at. They're instructive because it shows that the name, again, there's that name reference, but it adds here the elect. Now, I would call those the saints. For a Christian, that would be Christians. So we were also there. It says in his presence, no less. So yeah, you're existing there with God in his presence, but obviously in an idealized sense, in the realm of ideas, not to sound too Platonic here. I think there's actually a book by Plato called on the realm of ideas. Now let's look at the New Testament, which shares this language, like this famous verse, foreknown before the foundation of the world, in reference to, guess who? The Messiah. Who we Christians believe is Jesus. 1 Peter 1:20. So this is a technique called prolepsis. Let's see. So we have examples here of this prolepsis technique. And look at that last phrase there. They, as in Christians, believers, followers of this man, Jesus, the Messiah, have already, we obviously have not, but in a proleptic way, if that's the word, we already have. You have Colossians 1:13, God has rescued us from the power of darkness. Really? Well, no, not really, right? We're still under the power of the evil one. Has brought us into the kingdom of the Son. That's as close as you will get, by the way, to the inheritance language. Anthony always teaches this, that the Bible never says that we have inherited the kingdom. Not in those, but this is about as close as you can get to that idea, but it's never explicitly stated that we have inherited the promises, the promise of the ultimate land promise we're talking about this morning. Compare this with Hebrews 11:1, this proleptic language. Faith is the reality of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's why we have this language, right? Because in our minds, like in God's mind, we're there, but we're not there. As Anthony says, if you can handle that. So this is the assurance of the believer, right? The same assurance that was in Jesus when he prayed to the Father in John 17.